Hello, everyone. So today I'm speaking to you without any fancy background or a long presentation or something like that. And that's because I just want to share my story with you. My story, how my pathway to Passive House, how I found my passion and my purpose with that. It really brought me back to my roots, finding Passive House, and it gave me a renewed sense of purpose. Now, to understand what happened, I need to probably start earlier in my childhood. One certain moment in my life that sort of stayed with me and ingrained in my brain and followed me for my whole life. So I was about 10 years old when my family and I we went on a holiday, and we went into one of those glass domed leisure centers with artificial trees and artificial little lakes in there. There were ducks and fish and restaurants and all of that. And my dad turned to me and said, if we keep polluting our planet like we do now, then one day we all have to live in artificial environments like this. They were bigger than that moment. They sort of really showed me the fragility of our planet. They taught me how important it is to look after it. And that's stayed with me my whole life. Talking about this, some of you may know me already and have heard about me in the courses that I grew up in Germany, and Germany is a country where sustainability is a way of life. I felt like I was always surrounded with that, looking after the environment, doing the right thing, separating your rubbish, reusing things. So that was sort of something that was within me already. So I grew up with that. And so sustainability became really one of my passions. Then I sort of ventured into architecture. I studied architecture in Germany, funnily enough, in Darmstadt, in the city where the first passive house was built. So I was always surrounded with it, but I didn't really pay too much attention to it back then. My ventures eventually took me to Australia, where I wanted to broaden my horizon. But unfortunately, in Australia, my passion for sustainability took a backseat because it wasn't the focus of the industry. I came to Australia and people laughed at me when I suggested using double glazed windows. I remember that vividly in Melbourne. We were building 89 townhouses, and the energy rating came back that four of them needed double glazing. And I said, well, if four of them need double glazing, let's do all of them. And they just said, oh, no, we can't do that. Way too expensive. So this for me was an eye opener. But I also felt powerless to do something against that because people had already decided that this is not the way they wanted to go. So for all these years where I worked in Australia, I worked in different cities, in Melbourne, in Darwin, in Perth. I felt a sense of incompleteness. There was something missing, like a missing puzzle piece that I've lost somehow. And it was only another event in my life that brought me back to my roots, and that was becoming a mother. Becoming a mom of three beautiful children really then brought me back to this sense of urgency that we have to look after our planet. I still see my three beautiful children growing up, and I thought to myself, I don't want them to pay for mistakes that have been made by my generation. And I want them to experience the beautiful planet exactly the way that I do. You know, I love it. I love the nature. I love being outside, and I wanted them to be able to experience the same. So I started on a journey to look for answers to this climate crisis, for answers to do something on my own account. And I came across a lot of things. I started eating less meat or no meat at all. I started to cycle instead of taking the car. I started to look into the Friday for Future movement, architects declare, all of that. And as good as these things are, I felt they're a bit insignificant. And I was wondering if there was something bigger that I could do. So amongst all this searching, through stroke of serendipity, if you want to call it that, I stumbled across the Passive House again. I looked on the internet, and there was this Passive House course run by the visionary Daniel here in Perth, where I lived at that time. And I thought, yeah, that's meant to be. I need to be a passive house designer, and I took the course and became passive house designer, and it changed my life. I can't even tell you how much it changed my life. Passive house really became my passion, my mission. I wanted to advocate passive house everywhere that I could. You may ask yourself why I wanted to advocate passive house so much, and that is because passive house just makes so much sense to me. Passive house is more than a reduced energy consumption. Passive house can do so much. So I want to give you some key facts here. The first one is that passive house really has a superior energy efficiency. So through the insulation and the air tightness and the ventilation strategy that they have, we can cut down our energy usage by 90% for conditioning, so for heating and cooling. We also have comfort and health without compromise in our buildings. Our passive house prioritizes the occupant well-being, and there's really a focus on that we're always comfortable and healthy in our buildings. The next thing that's beautiful about passive house is that it's cost effective, especially in the long term. So whilst there might be some extra cost in the short term, the long-term savings, the long-term return on investment, the little power bills that we have makes it really worthwhile. And obviously, the other big thing for me was the climate resilience and the energy efficiency. So on one hand, passive house can be applied to diverse climatic conditions. We become more resilient to future climate change events. So if it's getting hotter, if it's getting cooler, we're more protected, and we're saving energy at the same time, which is good for our planet. So with all these amazing facts about passive house, you may now understand why I had to jump and dive headfirst into passive house and why it became my passion and my mission. At this point, it really felt like that missing puzzle piece was found. I was so glad that I had something where with my everyday work, every day at work, I could do something against climate change. And it felt so good and fulfilling to do that. After I've done the course, about a year later, I contacted Daniel, and he contacted me back and said, I'm looking for someone to teach a passive house designer course. And that was then in early 2020 when I joined Smart Plus Academy and became a passive house teacher and eventually a certified passive house trainer. And ever since then, I'm not looking back. I love my work. I do this with a lot of passion. I'm looking forward to going to work every day, and I feel a sense of fulfillment. So this journey really showed me the impact of our choices and how things from your childhood and things that bring you back to your roots really can have a big impact on your life and show you what really matters. So together, let's do the right thing. Let's work for sustainability, and let's shape a sustainable future for our children, for the generations to come, and for our beautiful planet.